Hello, and welcome to another very special episode of Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podewitz, CEO and founder. And as you can see, if you're watching this, I am celebrating Pride Month and actually Pride Year, and by welcoming my very, very special guest and friend, Eric Varin, to the show today. So welcome, Eric.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and happy Pride. I have my Pride celebration. My husband is into Legos, so there's a new Lego for Pride Month, so we're really excited about it.
I love it, and I can see you got the right colors. Is it?
Yeah,
what is it?
So it's people.
Oh, I love that. For those of you
listening,
it's beautiful.
Yes,
it's people and our wonderful Pride colors.
Rainbows, yes.
Yes, rainbows. Well, Eric, you and I met, maybe not even a year ago, right?
Last year at Smash, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at Smash. Became quick friends. Tell us just a little bit about your professional background and why you're at these conferences.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me, and happy Pride. I'm honored and love celebrating Pride Month. It's so important to have these discussions. So I am the Vice President of Client Success at OneDay, which is a video platform that allows our partners to be storytellers and really allows them to personalize the sales process and speed up their sales process, improve resident storytelling. And then lastly, it's about helping to create a culture of recognition within your organization to allow you to celebrate the good work that your communities do. So prior to that, I was the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Allegro Senior Living. I have been in the industry for about 12 years and love every minute of it. It's so rewarding to help people and to work with such passionate individuals throughout this industry. So I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Well, again, welcome, and it's great to know you. And one of the reasons that I'm in the business, but I know most people are in the business, is because of the people in the business, our residents, of course, but our team members and the people that serve in the senior living business are kind, good people.
Empathetic.
You are definitely one of them. And today I was wondering, since it is Pride Month, was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing your story with us.
Sure, absolutely. So I realized that I was different probably when I was about 7 or 8 years old, but I didn't quite know what that meant. So it took me a long time to process and come out. I think how I was raised, being gay wasn't something that was celebrated. It was something that you should be ashamed of. And so it took me a lot of time to be proud of being gay and being proud of who I am and surround myself with wonderful people. My family, once I came out, they have been wonderfully supportive. I came out at 23, so I was a late bloomer, as they say, but and I try to really live my life proud of who I am and really share stories, authentic stories of my life, my husband, our life together in the professional environment, because I think it's important to just be who you are and celebrate who you are. And it's something that I'm really proud of. And so that's kind of my story. It's not a really huge long one, but I think it's important because it was an evolution for me of really kind of learning how, and you hear this a lot. I mean, as you know, suicide for teenage children that are gay or LGBT or trans, it's very high, right? Because they don't feel safe, they don't feel supported and loved. So, that evolution of learning how to really appreciate who I am was a journey, and it's one that I'm still going on today. I think a lot of people forget that when you're gay, you never stop having to come out. You come out every day, and it can be a moment, especially in the world right now, in the political culture that's happening right now, where you have to pause and say, will this change this person's opinion of me? Or is this going to make my relationship with this individual more difficult, or are they going to celebrate it? And people like you celebrated and you welcomed me. When you heard my story, the first thing you said is, tell me more about it. And I just so appreciated that, to feel that love and support. But we do have to deal with that every day. So, but again, I think as we have these conversations, as we realize that people are people and they love who they love, it becomes a lot easier.
So when you said you were about 8, Eric, when you felt quote unquote different,
Yeah.
and that strikes me, even you saying that, right? Different than, what? But we all kind of know what, I know what you mean by that, because there's still a quote unquote, standard, right? Yeah. I am of a petite stature. I'm about 5 feet tall. When I stretch really high, and in a group of people, right, I can see that I am maybe the smallest of stature, and everyone else, there's someone who's 6'5", can see maybe there. When it's just something that is that being gay or LGBTQ, you feel, like you said, you feel different from the quote unquote norm.
Correct.
And so and that's, I don't know, will that ever change, right? What's normal, but I guess from the norm or the standard or whatever of groups of people that you grew up with. Where did you grow up?
In Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay. And so you said that when you were growing up, being gay wasn't something to be proud of. It was something to hide. And like, what did you hear, or like, what, how did you know that? Right.
Yeah. I'm going to be very vulnerable and share this. And I hope everyone can understand how hard it is. But my mother told me before she knew I was gay, that gay people get AIDS and die. And then if you were gay, you were going to die. You were going to never get married, never have children. And it was a sin. So I was raised Catholic. So it was hard. I don't think it was ever out of malice. It was out of lack of education, because, when I grew up, I was born in 1977. I was kind of coming of age in the 80s and 90s. There weren't a lot of gay examples or people like me. I had my mother's hairdresser, who was very, very effeminate, and Elton John. Those were the 2 reference points. So when I was like, I'm different, I was like, I think I'm gay, but I'm not like them. So where do I fit in this kind of spectrum of homosexuality? And I think one of the things that I was able to experience as I came out living in New York City was that I was able to see the spectrum of people that are gay, and that there are people just like me, and there's people that are just like the feminine hairdresser, who I don't have any negative thoughts about, or it's just, I think for my family, there wasn't a lot of reference point. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a carpenter. My mother was the first person in her family to go to college. So they were doing the best they can. They didn't know any different, right? But I will tell you, the moment I came out, my entire family loved me and appreciated me and accepted me the minute. My grandmother, who just passed away this January, she was one of the biggest proponents of allowing her church to have gay marriage. She actually got up and spoke in front of her entire congregation and told my story. And when she died I'm going to get teary-eyed, but when she died at her funeral, we talked about that and how she was so proud of her grandkids, but she was vulnerable and she did that. And I think that allowed my family to continue to accept, and they're wonderful. My husband and I see them all the time, and we've got a great relationship. But I look at ignorance sometimes, and I don't necessarily always think it's from malice. It's from just lack of education or lack of exposure.
Well, that's a good point. I've, Eric, go on my own journey as well, that with humanity, right? And I'm a suburban white, heterosexual, middle class, grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, who, and I'm not sure if it was because I was exposed to, I danced a lot, was in theater, and for me, it was absolutely a non-issue. It was a non-issue. We never talked about it at all. I grew up a little 80s, 70s. We just didn't, it wasn't mentioned.
Yeah.
I would like to think that there isn't that prejudice and hatred. I would really like to think there isn't. I'd like to think we're coming along. And just being vulnerable too, I struggle with the doctrines that teach these. You mentioned, the organizations, church organizations or whatever, that teach this, that, gay, LGBTQ are going to hell, or, and I really, really, really struggle with it. And I think you made a good point of, like, your mother, that it didn't come from malice, but it was a message that she was taught.
Absolutely.
And the belief that, and the faith that, this is we do certain things a certain way, and we are certain, and if you're taught something and it's in you,
correct,
and it's part of something bigger that you really believe in and have faith in, how challenging and how difficult is it to maybe be vulnerable within yourself to say, okay, well, I grew up this way, I still believe, I'm still, yet this component of it's wrong.
I think I can tell you my family story. I mean, our relationship with religion changed very much once I came out, where my family stopped going to Catholic churches and went more to the Protestant and Methodist side, because it's not the Methodist, I'm sorry, Protestant side, because it's more accepting and welcoming. So again, I think it is hard when you're faced with the, you're taught a certain way, and you're almost taught to hate somebody for something that they choose. I think one of my messages when I told my parents when I came out, and my dad said this to me too, I said, I didn't choose this. I would much have, when I was younger, when, it was different, I would have loved to have been straight and getting married and have babies and all of that stuff. I mean, and he said that to me. He said, I know you didn't choose this for yourself. And that was interesting to see how comforting that was for him in accepting me. Which I don't quite know psychologically why, but it was really an interesting point when he said that to me, and me being like, but that gives him comfort, and that's what he needs right now to help process this reality of who his son is.
I admire you a lot for, and admire all who come out, because while it shouldn't be a big deal, it's a big deal to share who we are, but I mean, it shouldn't be hard, right? It shouldn't be difficult, but it is. And even though, like, you had loving parents, but it was still a struggle because of potentially what you thought, well, you knew what they believed, right? I'm sure that
Absolutely.
that added to the struggle. Our daughter came out as a senior in high school, and she was raised in a open environment. Didn't really discuss it because it was just, we had friends, we were in the theater, it doesn't really matter. When she started becoming of a certain, junior high, or is Brad and William gay? Yes, they're married, and just kind of like, oh, okay. And yet, even with growing up in that environment with support, it was still hard for her to come out. And when she came out to me and then to her dad, we were like, oh, okay, great. And her dad gave her a hug. We're very happy for you. And later on, I just asked her, you knew how we feel, how we felt, yet it was still challenging for you. And she said, it's different with your parents.
Hmm.
And my heart goes out to her and everyone else that I can't imagine how hard it is for anybody to to share their truth when there's a very high probability of a negative and in some cases horrible we're going to disown you.
Yeah.
And I mean it's completely brave, and you talked about embracing yourself, Eric, and loving yourself and accepting yourself. I mean, that's a message for all of us, right? We all, you be you, right? And I'm 55, and I in like just kind of settling into you be you. And let alone someone who's a child or a teen or anyone who, because of who you are, there's a baked in hatred.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last thing a child wants to be is a disappointment to their parent. And that was my fear, that I was going to be a disappointment because of who I was. And I go back to that. I didn't choose this. This was who I was the day I was born. I mean, even at 8 years old, I knew something was different. And I think it's just a testament to you and your husband and I a part of me like thanks you for providing your daughter that acceptance and normalization of being gay throughout her upbringing, though it is always still hard because you don't know, there's always going to be that little concern. I mean, you and I were at a conference and I was sharing my story and someone talked about how she didn't believe it because it was not what she was taught in church, and that she was trying to come around to accepting being gay or being, around gay people. And it was such an eye-opening, but an incredible moment for me because there's so much work we still have to do, and we still have to normalize it and have conversations and realize that it's just people wanting to be in a relationship and being loved. And that's what it is.
Right. Right. I love that normalization. So I don't, I really hesitate using the word normal or, that where I'm not normal, but the normalization of. So when I say, I, wrote a blog last year and I wrote my 17-year-old daughter is gay. So what? I don't, and I mean, so what? I love her more than anything. And it's a big deal of anything she decides to do, but the so what meaning, my nephew called to tell me they're the same age, that he got a tattoo on his foot and he was afraid to tell his parents, right? Because they would be disappointed because they didn't want him to get a tattoo. And so my nephew got a tattoo. So what? I love him. It's great. Got a tattoo, right? And it's not quite the same, but it should be, right? That I'm gay or I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or there's a Netflix series that just came out. Have you seen Heartstopper?
I have not.
Stop now.
Okay.
Stop now. Tell Clint you're gonna take
I'm busy. I gotta watch Netflix.
Everybody, Netflix Heartstopper. Okay. And it's been renewed for seasons 2 and 3, much to my daughter's delight and mine. It's new. It's a new UK, made in the UK, and it is a teenage love story. Done in like eight, a series of 8 shows.
Yep.
That is normal. And I think this is what people need to see. They need people who have challenges with understanding and, empathy. We talk a lot about empathy in sales and in our business, and empathy is not how you feel in someone's shoes. It's how they feel.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So you don't have to walk someone else's walk. All I'm asking, and I want to speak for you, but all I was asking is just let me walk in my shoes.
Correct. I'm right there with you. I also think me coming out has allowed me to be more empathetic and empathic to other people and their positions. Because again, I look at it as an opportunity to understand them. I live in Texas and there's a lot of stuff going on right now politically with the Don't Say Gay law they're trying to push through. And it was just done in Florida. And I'm angry about that. And I don't think it's right or fair that when my husband and I adopt our child, there's a chance that our child can't even talk about us in school, right? But I also want to think about and understand why they're having that perception. Why, there was an event for Get Dallas Pride just this past weekend, and there were people picketing, saying it was a family-friendly drag show that was going to happen. And it was in the news that there was a gentleman talking about that, screaming as children were walking into the event with their parents, this is a groomer event, this is a groomer event, you're going to be, and the kids were walking with their ears closed. But it's sad that hatred has become accepted in a way that it wasn't in the past. And it's first time me being gay that I walk around a little conservative, and so we haven't had any bad experiences here, but I still have that worry that, somebody is going to say something, and that's just, it makes me sad because I feel like we should be in a different place than we are right now. And I think that's, to your point, helping people understand what a healthy relationship looks like, or someone who's gay, who's single, it doesn't matter. But they're just like you, and just like you, they're just like me, they're just people, and so what if they're gay? Really, it's not affecting you. So
yeah, I would talk to you all day, and I want to do another podcast with you to talk more about it, because you bring up so many good points, and I couldn't agree with you more on why people hang their hat on this. I don't understand the hatred. I don't. It's the hatred of your fellow human being. And if you're if you're brought up to believe a certain thing because of a religion, I mean, it's you be you, and that's what you believe. But to pass that on to someone else, is wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong. And you're sad, I'm sad, I'm mad. And I don't want to stay in a state of anger. No. Obviously, to be successful and happy person, but these things, they're incredibly they're detrimental to humanity.
But it takes people like you, Julie, that are challenging the status quo and having these types of conversations. That's how you evoke change. That's how you evoke acceptance, is you have the dialogue, have a dialogue with someone that is angry and hates gay, and try to understand why, and then listen and be empathetic, and then give your side of to help educate. I mean, that's really how I've tried to live my life with this. Is I go back to that moment where we were at the conference. I could have been horrified and upset and angry, and I just was like, okay, I need to know more. And I think it's probably just the salesman in me, right? I always want to learn more to understand the person. But it was a moment where I was like, okay, I can help this person understand. You don't have to agree with me, but at least I can help you understand what my reality is. I think it's important we continue to have these conversations.
I do too. And Eric, it's people like you that share your story and that are, warm and wonderful person yourself, but that to want to learn more about others who challenge or who have very differing opinions, and just to seek to understand is also incredibly important and impactful part of this journey, though, little by little, right? Little by little, one conversation at a time, one love at a time, right? It's just like send love. Exactly. I so appreciate you taking time, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I just wanted to ask, is there any advice to close us out? Any advice that you would give someone listening to this who's having their own personal challenge expressing themselves or coming out?
Yeah, I would say be patient. I would sit with yourself, be kind with yourself. It's going to be okay. It will get better. Because I was convinced that I was going to get a horrible disease and die as soon as I came out. It was just, that was what's going to happen to me. And I've been able to be successful in my career and be in a relationship for 10 years and about to adopt a baby. And there's so many good things that can happen. So don't hate yourself, love yourself, and find people around you that love you and accept you and champion you, and surround yourself with those people so that you can learn to love yourself. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to come out, and it's hard to articulate because it's such an ingrained thing of who you are. But it's just find those people that love you and help them help you kind of celebrate who you are.
Wonderful advice for anybody listening. Well, Eric, I love you, and I am so happy to know you. And thanks again for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me, and happy Pride.
Happy Pride.